Hi, this is Barbara Sanders, and this is my YouTube channel, Sacred Metamorphoses. And I was so excited today because I was going to have a conversation with Donia Smith, who is a healing person in Apalachicola, Florida. However, my technology, anyway, some technology glitch happened, and all I could hear was echoing, and our voices weren't clear, and she couldn't hear me. So that's not happening today. And I wanted to take this time to tell you that I will be rescheduling her, and she will be fascinating to listen to. She has a place in Apalachicola, Florida, named the Luminary. And I was just down there a couple of weeks ago listening to a meditation talk by Mary Waller, who is near me in Florida. Um, and she was talking about Joe Dispenza and meditation as medicine. Um, so anyway, I wanted to just let you know that we will be talking soon. I have two more conversations set up, one with Mary Beth Murphy, who I met like I met Danya at a St. George retreat, or online with Tammy Roth. I forget which came first, but I've gone to a lot of retreats at St. George Island in Florida and Alligator Point with Tammy Roth, and this is how I meet some of the most fascinating people I know. And so Mary Beth Murphy is from, at this point, living in York, Maine, and she and I'll be talking about all sorts of things coming up too. And she is a very talented and gifted and skillful healing type of person, as is Donia Smith. And then the third person, all these will be within a month from now. This is January 21st. The third person I'll be talking with soon is Jenna Longmire. And Jenna is an amazing woman who I got to know in Nashville, Tennessee during COVID more than earlier. She had been living there for several years doing a psychotherapy practice, and then moved into the more spiritual realm and started a mystery school in Nashville during COVID. I think it was when I first really met her online. And her mystery school is and was fascinating. And she has been doing lots of work all around spiritual healing of all sorts, from goddess work to Reiki and more, so much more. So I hope you will tune in when the next videos come out with Donia Smith, Mary Beth Murphy, and Jenna Longmire, because they will be wonderful and a little different than some of the ones I did in the past. In the meantime, I know the world is seeming like the craziest place we've ever lived, but it's the only place. No, it's not, maybe. Many of us think it's the only place we've lived, but maybe we're all star seeds and we've lived other planets and other dimensions and other star systems and galaxies. Depends on what you believe about that. But I started this YouTube channel a couple of years ago, and find it delightful to be able to share myself and to listen to other people share themselves about their own journeys, about their healing practices of many sorts. As you'll see on my archives, there are lots of people who have talked before, some about dreams, some about psychedelics, some about their spiritual healing methods. I have one lawyer, Barbara Moss, who also did some conversing with me once, and Frank Castellano, a psychic who is just a wonderful Nashville and national and international psychic. I would like to call him. He's brilliant and has been my psychic for many, many years. We were thinking about 20. But anyway, so there are lots of other older and former conversations that I've had with people if you'd like to look at them. Um, I can't remember any others offhand that I'll mention right now. But anyway, I just want to go back to living in this crazy place called humanity and our Mother Earth Gaia world. As crazy as things seem to be, and many of us often will say, this is rock bottom. We cannot imagine it getting any worse out there in the 3D world of our government, our nation, the US, and leadership and presidents and supporters of presidents at this point in 2026. I stay away from the news now some. I used to watch it often, and I watch it enough that I now am currently and often amazed at what this president can do and not be stopped by either of us, any of us individually, by groups of people. Nobody has impeached him lately. I can't imagine that. He is acting like an old, demented, and crazy person, babbling on during his press conferences about all sorts of things from baseball to growing up years to wanting to take over and own Greenland, bombing Venezuelan fishermen, supposedly because they were narco terrorists, and then because, yes, he wanted to take over Venezuela's oil and minerals too, just like he wants in Greenland. Anyway, enough of that. That's just detail and my mind chatter. Um, there's so much cruelty, violence against human beings and other living beings. There are immigration issues, women getting killed when ICE walks around their car and they're not doing anything other than talking to the policeman. And then this last person, as you know, Renee Good, um, what's her last name? I'm forgetting now. Renee Nicole Good is her name, excuse me. What a tragic thing. And within our eyesight and videos, to see this young woman who was protesting the ICE raids in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and had her car parked kind of funny on the street, and all of these officers came up and around her. One tried to get into her door. She had just taken her kid to school. There was a dog in the back. Her wife was outside the car talking to the policeman, or not policemen, ICE people. And one walks around the car, and then she backs up and tries to turn right to avoid him, and he shoots her in the head and the face and kills her. Um, that's vivid in my mind right now. And so I've been a psychotherapist for many years and only later in life moved into the more spiritual and sacred realm. And I'm sure part of that is because of the distress and the tragedy and the violence that goes on around us every day of our lives. And we have it so good in the United States in so many ways. We are so fortunate and privileged, though there is such poverty, harm to people, harm to animals. There's so much political conflict and chaos. There's so much corruption. So I'm saying all those things just to say, how do we keep our heads above water and wait for the next blow, wait for the next blow, and the next period of time or situation where we cannot trust our government leaders, we cannot trust some of our other people in our worlds. And my hope is that we do find some ways to breathe more deeply and clearly and regularly, and do some meditations that you can find anywhere online. You can find your own trainings for meditations. I currently follow one of the best resources I've had in the last year, and that's Dr. David Clements, Clements, Dr. David Clements, who was a theoretical physicist and had an awakening 20 or so years ago. And he leads meditations, he channels from above, from other galaxies and spaces, other races, and from the inner worlds in the earth. And um, I don't think you have to believe everything any one of these spiritual teachers is saying. Was raised in an Episcopal church, and we grew up with doctrine and rituals. And what I realize in my later life is that I've sort of developed and created my own source or sense of spirituality, which looks a lot like Christianity without using the words God or Jesus. Uh, so it's funny how it all comes around in a way. But what I pursue and hope others will not just pursue, but learn to feel through our breathing practices and meditations is that we are being held all of the time, have always been held by some greater loving intelligence, You can call it God, goddess, spirit, source. There's so many names for the divine, divine feminine, divine mother. I think each one of us in this lifetime, when we no longer have to focus only on basic living skills like enough money to eat, a roof over ours and our families' heads, enough money to be able to live without constantly living in the ways we grew up, which is about our conditioning and training to survive. That's mainly what we have learned to do is to survive. And I am so blessed and lucky to be healthy enough at this age, at 73, to be able to rest some, to relax more, to find more peace and energy from within and around me so that I can hopefully help heal some of the terrible things that have happened either to me or to those around me, or what I grew up around in the Mississippi Delta in the 1960s with the civil rights movement. I my uh, There's a longer story there. I won't go into that right now, but I've always been an activist for human rights, civil rights, women's rights, immigration rights, humanity's rights to live and to not be harmed by other people. Certainly, there's a place for criminality and what to do with criminals. But even when our president came into office his second term, he talked about rounding up the criminals in the nation, those who he wanted to send back out of the country because they were rapists and murderers and people like that. And so within 1 year, that has developed into this ICE organization that he has gotten funded. And there are so many others of us, all of us, who are complicit with all of this and not stopping him, not just Republicans, not just Democrats. None of us have found ways to stop this man and his cohorts, his advisors, like Stephen Miller, who are tearing our country apart, not following the Constitution, grabbing people out of their homes or places of business. One old man I saw being pulled out of his house the other day with just a towel or a blanket on in the freezing cold, with ICE leading him out. These are sometimes US citizens, most of whom have no criminal history. ICE itself, from what I hear, have quotas to meet, so they are grabbing anyone and everyone they can, especially in places that they have intruded upon, like Minneapolis. They also came to Memphis, LA, as everyone knows, Chicago. But this Minneapolis rock bottom seems to be the one that has activated people. And when we see videos of a woman being shot, and we see how she was not trying to run into the police or ICE agent who shot her, but he says it was in his defense, thinking he would be hurt by her. And we see the government and the Justice Department not even wanting to investigate the case that we saw through several videos online. They don't even want to investigate that officer, that ICE officer, and the killing of the woman in her 30s with children, who turned around to the officer. Her last words were something like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I'm not mad at you." Just being very friendly to the ICE officers. And then she gets killed. So that's prompted me and everyone to go back inside. Again, I want everyone to feel nurtured by the loving intelligence all around us. And we are. I do believe that. And that's how we can feel and get better inside ourselves. So then we can activate and or bring in activations from above or beyond or wherever we get our meditative guidance, so that we can become more active toward other people, be more gentle and kind and compassionate within ourselves, for ourselves first, and then other people. And then some of us will become activists again in protesting, in writing, in going to groups and gatherings, which are actually dangerous now to attend if ICE is in the mix. So what am I saying? I am saying that I and very hopeful. And actually, if you follow astrology and or some of the spiritual masters these days or teachers, and David Clements, and you can watch all his interviews online on YouTube and his meditations. You can watch many of them and participate in them. If you listen to those people, the year 2026, and it actually started in December, there's a whole shift going on, a whole transition to new life, to a new way of being in the world for humanity. With all the resources that we now gather around us spiritually in sacred spaces and with other human beings and other living beings all around us all the time and within ourselves, if we can think not in dualistic terms, but as we are one and we are united and we experience some unity, but in human language, we have to sort through things in dualistic terms like there's spirit, there's me, but spirit is me and I am spirit. The divine and human are combined, then we can be better stewards of our environment, our climate, Mother Earth. We can take more action and feel our power to change our government systems that are become so cruel and corrupt and um, maniacal with the president and his men and women, not just men and women. Um, we can change the ways of the world one by one, step by step, by healing and ourselves with great guidance and compassion and loving intelligence and teachers and leaders and psychotherapists and all the healers in the world. We can get better within ourselves so that we are not so judgmental inside ourselves and toward others, which I've grown up with huge harsh judgment myself and others. Humanity has that tendency. And humanity has that tendency to have 10 things happen in the day, and 9 of them are good, and we're grateful for them. But that one that seemed bad or evil or cruel, we will grab and hang on to and tell ourselves something bad about ourselves, that we did something or we must have done something to get this kind of response from our environment that hurt us. And we blame ourselves initially. We grew up as children blaming ourselves, and we carried that on into adulthood until we challenge ourselves that not everything in the world is about ourselves. That's the narcissism that we all grew up with as children, because children's brains aren't fully formed, and all they know is if mom's depressed or dad's beating mom, it's about me as a child. I must have done something wrong, or I should have prevented it as a child. We think we are the centers of the universe. And unfortunately, we carry that on as we grow up and our brains fully form, unless we challenge it. And we know that when someone yells at me, it's not always just about something I did, but might have something to do with the other person and their beliefs and their truths and their lifestyles and their histories, biologically, physically, mentally, spiritually, and that it's not all about me. That's a big learning for most of us. We, I think we learn and keep that up to think it's all about me, even though we're not labeled narcissists, because human beings think that if we know why something happened, mom's depressed, dad beat mom, if we know and understand and analyze and figure out how that happened, then we have some ability to control it. We're hopeful in that way, that we have some ability to change things, to change the world, to save the world, to feed the world. And the narcissism in that is pretty funny, but we've all come to that stage of noticing our limitations, and we can't change everything in the world. What we can do is change ourselves. I do believe that firmly, again, with guidance and support and nurturance and following some sort of, if not sacred practice, alternative practices that help us calm down our bodies and move from reaction to response instead of immediately jumping when someone looks at us funny. so that we can look at different kinds of people who are of different races, from different countries, of different genders, and we don't immediately stereotype them, and that we can imagine they're human beings too, just like us, and that none of us are better than the other of us. Forget the superiority and hierarchy of human beings if you can, and notice that we are all just human beings trying to survive, and not just survive anymore, but thrive. And everyone, I think, should have that privilege to find ways to thrive, not just feed their families, have roofs over their head, leave their country because they're violent countries and their children are at risk as they are for harm and death. Why can't we live together in a more peaceful, collaborative state instead of so scared and fearful and anxious ourselves, or so depressed and traumatized ourselves that we project that out onto the world, and we are mean to others, and we also judge others, and we also act in cruel ways. Even if we don't mean to or intend to, others may perceive our actions as cruel and inhumane. We got to clean that up and clear that out first before we can do anything about anyone else, except show up and notice the power that we do have to join in groups and communities that can help change these larger systems than we can change by ourselves. And with that, I will stop for today. Again, it's January 21st, 2026. There are a lot of good things coming, and even Dr. David Clements will say things like, it's not all about us doing the work, just the work or the action of changing everything. Lots of support is coming from outside of us in other dimensions that we don't maybe even know about or feel, or we don't have the language to talk about in human language, the awakenings and epiphanies and revelations and experience that we've had of the spiritual combining with our humanity, our souls being both connected to humans, us, and the divine, all of us being one without the separations that I'm talking about, because that's how we do things in language. This is Sacred Metamorphoses. I hope you'll join us when we have the new guests that are coming, Donia Smith, Mary Beth Murphy, excuse me, and Jenna Longmire coming up soon. I hope that you will find some way to bring peace and calm to your physiology and biology so that you can become a more kind, compassionate human being, even though we all slip and we all make mistakes and we can all get triggered in a moment's notice. What our hope is that once we're triggered and we react, either inside or outside, that we notice that more quickly, become more aware of that more quickly, and we can choose then to not be that way, to not act that way, to not even think that way sometimes. Our feelings, I do believe our feelings and experiences come first. We feel, and then we make sense of that feeling with thoughts. And so we don't need to challenge the feelings. They just happen. Like the weather comes and goes, hurricane storms, beautiful weather, rain, sun, that happens within us. Feelings happen within us and they come and go. But what we do with those feelings, how we think about those feelings and how we react having those feelings is our responsibility and our job to take care of, so that we're not hurting others in the world either. And I strongly believe that. Barbara Sanders, look forward to talking with you again and conversing with others. Have a wonderful day. And if you'd like to subscribe, there's subscribe buttons all around. Thank you. Bye.